The Trump presidency officially ended today as Joe Biden was inaugurated as the 46th president of the United States. And wow, all right. So that's what it feels like when you're not grinding your teeth. I forgot. And I think, yeah, I can see colors again. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. You know, over the last 4 years, whenever I imagined myself finally saying those words, I pictured us surrounded by a jubilant audience, reveling in the collective catharsis of watching this wretched, awful man slink away from the seat of power like a drunk who got kicked out of a bar at 3 a.m. for trying to steal the free pretzels. No, these are my home pretzels. I brought these pretzels from my home. Instead, I'm alone in an empty studio, no pomp, no fanfare, no senior citizens bust in from Paramus who were told they had tickets to Dr. Oz. The only celebration we could manage was Wally holding a single balloon covered in Purell. Keep that party going, Wally. And the reason for that is, even amid this moment of collective relief, the nation is still in the midst of several unprecedented calamities, none of which will magically disappear anytime soon. It's a little like getting rid of the last guy at a party. We spent 4 years yawning and stretching and hinting that he should get out. And when he finally leaves, it is a relief until you remember you still have to clean up all his puke, and he, puked everywhere. Luckily, we had this guy working at the inauguration. Sir, who are you and why do you rule so much? I knew they were taking extra precautions after the raid on the Capitol, but apparently none are more prepared than Scarf Man. Beautiful old scarf draped loosely around the neck, one mask peeking out of a second mask, a pack of wet wipes that, like many of you, I confused for a pack of Oreo minis. Is that guy about to eat Oreos close to the mic in some kind of inauguration ASMR? Later in the day, we got to see the Bidens enter the White House residence, but before they did, the White House itself went through a deep cleaning as soon as Trump left.
There's a deep clean of the residence because of COVID, which includes, vacuuming drapes, wiping baseboards, cleaning chandeliers.
Scrubbing out Diet Coke rings, pulling loose hair out of the drains, trying to get ketchup off the Constitution. I know they're saying the deep clean is because of COVID, but I mean, even without the pandemic, if I were moving in after Trump anywhere, I'd want the place fumigated. The guy was glued to his TV, barely left his bedroom, and only ate fast food. That place probably looks like a locker on Storage Wars, or a studio apartment in a rent-controlled building after the tenant who's lived there for 80 years dies. Just piles of old newspapers, loose change, and a collection of weird ceramic pigs. What do you think, Bessie? Should I concede? Bessie has concerns about the vote count in Georgia. It's not in Trump's nature to leave on a graceful, dignified note. Instead, he left in shame and disgrace the way he should have, scampering out early in the morning like a college sophomore doing the walk of shame. Though he did give us one final Trump trademark, chopper-adjacent cue and shout.
A great honor.
Now that we'll never have to endure another one of these again, can I just ask, how long does it take to start a helicopter? Wouldn't it have been better to wait until he got in before firing the thing up? No, past is past. Trump, of course, couldn't even muster the bare minimum level of grace and self-assurance to attend his successor's inauguration, but he did apparently want his helicopter to do one last farewell trip around the Capitol.
They just flew over here, over the Capitol, where these preparations are underway for Joe Biden's inauguration. At any moment now in the next few hours, of course, the inauguration that the president will not be attending, but apparently wanted to see.
He looked upon our nation's capital the way past presidents looked over hurricane damage. Well, love me or hate me, you have to agree. I the place up. Mel, are you looking? Mel! He was too scared to go to the inauguration, but he wanted to see it from afar. He treats the hallowed customs of our democracy like a 5-year-old watching a scary movie through his fingers. So we took a whirl around D.C. on the taxpayers' dime. One last no joyride. And now the Biden administration will have to reckon with a series of simultaneous crises unprecedented in our lifetimes. Just because Trump is gone doesn't mean all the destruction he wrought is gone as well. In fact, it's very likely to get worse in the near term, and the conditions that created him will remain as well, unless they're scrubbed from our institutions and our system and our public life. But I do think a small step forward was hearing the incoming president, on the eve of his inauguration, acknowledge the very real human toll of the pandemic.
To heal
We must remember. It's hard sometimes to remember, but that's how we heal.
I have to say, I was very moved by that because there's been this weird collective erasure of the toll of the pandemic because of the willful criminal neglect of the Trump White House and its allies in the right-wing media, an insistence that it will all go away, that everything's fine, and that what you're seeing and hearing with your own eyes and ears isn't actually happening. And a small first step towards fixing that is acknowledging it. Anyway, very powerful and a welcome change. Now let's hear what the outgoing president had to say.
Have a good life. We will see you soon.
Have a good life. It's not a presidential farewell. That's what your high school crush writes in your yearbook as a final twist of the knife. I guess we won't be seeing each other with me going to Bryn Mawr and you staying here to chase your kickboxing dreams, so have a good life. Although even weirder than that was what Trump said right before, hinting that he might possibly try to make some sort of political comeback if he's not disqualified after the Senate impeachment trial.
So just a goodbye. We love you. We will be back in some form.
In some form? What does that mean? Whenever you see a black plastic bag stuck in a tree or a vulture on the shoulder of the highway pulling the guts out of a dead raccoon, that'll be me. Not the dog turd you wipe off your shoe, but the one that stays stuck in the treads that you need to dig out with a stick, never quite getting it all, because part of me will always be with you. In some form. So Trump held a pathetic, forgettable going-away party about the size of the lunch rush at Hale and Hardy. In fact, Trump's farewell was snubbed by virtually everyone, from his own vice president to Republicans in Congress. Trump was so desperate for attendees at this thing that those who were invited could bring as many as 5 guests. I worked at SNL for 12 years, and when I go back to see a show, I can't even bring my wife. They even sent invitations to people who turned on Trump and left in disgrace, like Omarosa, John Bolton, and even Anthony Scaramucci, who said he takes it as a sign the White House is desperate to bulk up the guest list. Trust me, that had to be a mass email if one of them got sent to me. Eesh, that is embarrassing. That's like when you get an invite to someone's wedding even though you only met him once 5 years ago at a friend's barbecue. Honey, do you remember Doug? The guy from the barbecue who wouldn't stop trying to sell us insurance? No? Okay, well, do you want to go to his wedding? He's offering 17 plus ones. And then, of course, there was the fact that in his final address as president, he signed off the way you'd expect, by rambling, stream of consciousness style, like he was describing a dream to a therapist.
People have no idea how hard this family worked. We were not a regular administration. Our vets are happy. Our people are happy. Our military is thrilled. If you look at what happened until February a year ago, our numbers were at a level that nobody had ever seen before. And now the stock market is actually substantially higher than it was at its higher point prior to the pandemic. So it's really, you could say we built it twice. Be careful. Very complex. Be careful. Remember us when you see these things happening, if you would. Remember us. I'm looking at elements of our economy that are set to be a rocket ship up. It's a rocket ship up. We got the vaccine developed in 9 months instead of 9 years or 5 years or 10 years.
Even in his last address to the nation as president, he sounds like a husband making small talk with the doorman while he waits for his wife to come down to the lobby. So yeah, my cousin got his master's in 4 years. Could have been 9, 5, 10 years. She should be down soon. Man, this Mets season's off to a crazy start. Then Trump finished his speech, or whatever it was, and in a bizarre spectacle, he waved goodbye to the anemic crowd to the same song he ended his rallies with. Like Grandpa leaving 10 minutes into the wedding reception. And then finally it all ended and we got to watch Air Force One take off with Trump on board as president one last time, presumably setting a course straight for the sun where he would burst into 1,000 rays of light, never to be seen again. Either that or he was making a run for it. How long can you keep this baby in the air? I need it to last until after they subpoena my tax returns. Look out the window, Mel! Oh, she's not. She's out today. And then there was the inauguration at the Capitol, the same site that just 2 weeks ago was the scene of a violent insurrection incited by the president. We were treated, on one hand, to scenes of hope and solemn ritual, like the inspiring moment when Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman, who bravely led a group of rioters away from the Senate floor, arrived at the ceremony. And then on the other hand, there was a moment of shamelessness from Ted Cruz, one of the seditionists who tried to subvert the election, taking selfies at the same dais.
I can't tell you how astounding it is here to overlook the west front of the Capitol, the exact spot where just 2 weeks ago rioters, violent supporters of President Trump were scaling the scaffolding that has now been replaced with bunting. It is remarkable also to see so many of those who had backed the president in this effort, like Senator Ted Cruz, who just a moment ago was snapping selfies.
Who on God's green earth wants a selfie with Ted Cruz? I mean, of course, the main problem with Ted Cruz taking selfies is that the self is Ted Cruz. Good luck finding a filter that makes you look less like a rockabilly muskrat with a wet diaper. But as gross as that was, there were also the genuine signs of promise and hope. Like, for example, the sight of Bernie Sanders showing up in a giant coat and mittens with a bunch of papers in his arms like a public defender whose car stalled in the snow. I'm here now. I'm here. You can stop talking to my client. Thank you very much. Could someone mail this for me? Bulk is fine. Although the best Bernie appearance was, of course, this picture of him sitting in his chair by himself like he was at Foot Locker waiting for the salesperson to bring him the next size up. Biden's first act as president should be to replace every Confederate monument in the country with this statue of Bernie Sanders. The plaque can say, "Come, don't come, it's a statue, who cares?" In fact, one of the best things about the new era we entered today is that Bernie will now be the chairman of the powerful Senate Budget Committee, where he'll be able to fight for, among other things, expanded direct payments, unemployment insurance, a $15 minimum wage, and canceling student debt. He'll be able to hold hearings on Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. Hell, he could change the price of coffee in the Senate break room if he wanted to. $6 for a cup of coffee. That's insane. From now on, you bring your own beans from home, you grind them up at a pencil sharpener, meeting adjourned. And then came the fanfare and the ritual of the inauguration itself, including performances from megastars J-Lo and Lady Gaga, which was a nice change of pace from the Trump era, when the only musical acts who would associate with the president were Three Doors Down and the kids who got stiffed by Trump. You remember that? When Trump refused to pay a bunch of children who sang at his rallies, and they had to sue him to get their money. Sadly, there won't be any room in the history books for that, but I assure you, here at Late Night, we will never forget. Overall, the day was not short on inspiration, with a benediction from Reverend Sylvester Beeman and an incredible inaugural poem from 22-year-old Amanda Gorman. But perhaps the most stirring words were delivered by Senator Amy Klobuchar to describe J-Lo's rendition of America the Beautiful.
Well, that was great.
That was my aunt's review of Mamma Mia. Well, that was great. I liked all the singing and the dancing. Time to go home. And of course, we also witnessed some breathtaking scenes of history, chief among them the scene of Justice Sonia Sotomayor, the first Latina to serve on the Supreme Court, swearing in Kamala Harris, the first female, the first black, and the first Asian American vice president. Then, of course, came the catharsis of seeing a person who was not Donald Trump become president of the United States when Joe Biden officially took the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Son of a gun. Wally, give that balloon another squirt. There we go. The only bummer was that Biden didn't end the oath by swearing to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and cut the malarkey, so help me God. Come on, man! Biden's swearing in will also be remembered for having the biggest Bible anyone has ever seen. Does that also have every Amtrak schedule ever? Does it have the lesser-known Gospels? Yeah, this one has Keith. He doesn't add much, but he spills the tea on Matthew. Guy was always late. Then came Biden's speech, his first address to a divided nation as president, and see if you can guess the theme.
It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity. Unity. With unity, we can do great things, important things. History, faith, and reason show the way of unity. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. And unity is the path forward.
But why won't the Democrats talk about unity? You know, Republicans incited an insurrection and then complained that Democrats aren't trying to unify the nation. Meanwhile, Biden talked more about unity than a marriage counselor who only gets paid if the couple stays together. Ben, you need to validate your wife's feelings more. And Carol, don't repress those emotions. Communicate. Now let's hash this out and grab a brewski at Houlihan's. Like any president, Biden has his strengths and weaknesses. But clearly one strength is his ability to give the nation a pep talk. And in many ways, his inaugural address was basically the halftime speech America needed.
And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. And today, we mark the swearing in of the first woman in American history elected to national office, Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't tell me things can't change. And here we stand, just days after a riotous mob thought they could use violence to silence the will of the people, to stop the work of our democracy, to drive us from this sacred ground. It did not happen. It will never happen. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Not ever.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought that was pretty uplifting. Can we check in on Bernie real quick and get his reaction to the speech? Okay. All right, he's digging it. I know him. He's digging it. Just hearing a president talk honestly and straightforwardly about our challenges, promising to fight for democracy, or saying phrases like "my whole soul is in it" was both calming and jarring after 4 years of a president who, if he ever mentioned his soul at all, did so in context of selling it.
Hello, is this the devil? How much can I get for the soul? $10? Forget it. And everybody's listened to the soul call with the devil. It was a perfect call. I called the devil. I didn't sell the soul. I got it. I said no. It was a perfect call.
Biden also showed deference to previous presidents, including one who couldn't be there.
I know the resilience of our Constitution and the strength of our nation, as does President Carter, who I spoke with last night, who cannot be with us today, but whom we salute for his lifetime in service.
Everyone loves Jimmy Carter. I'm assuming Carter wasn't there because of COVID protocols. Although he's such a good person, he's probably with his Habitat for Humanity friends building Trump a house in Palm Springs. It's not as nice as the White House, but if you fill it with love, it'll be more than enough.
Oh, love's gonna be a problem, Jimmy.
But now the challenge for Biden and for Democrats in Congress is to follow these words with action. Biden began today by announcing plans to sign a raft of executive orders undoing some of Trump's most heinous and destructive policies, and Senate Democrats have unveiled a package of democracy reforms, which are huge first steps. Biden and Democrats in Congress can't shy away from doing what's necessary to fix both what Trump broke and what was broken before him. Trump has left the nation in ruins, and he'll leave as the most disgraced, unpopular president in history. And as for Trump, look, I know today can't be easy for him. So I would like to read a few lines of a verse that I know means a great deal to former President Trump, in hopes that it will soothe him on this difficult day. Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, because you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.